DL Trader with today's trade recap for Tuesday 20th of November. First trade, just a quick simple one here, was the rest of my swing short on AKER. It had a little pop up in the morning that just sort of let it see what it was going to do, looking at this sort of level at 190 off this level here. Couldn't quite hit it. Thought about adding, but didn't want to play with it too much. So covered half on this drop, and then let the rest run, and closed out the rest at the end of the day. So didn't see much more fade, but nevertheless, got some more downside off this move. So call that one a good winner. The next trade I'll go over was ORPN. So one thing I had today was, I tweeted this before the day, I wanted to cut my shorting the front side down by a half. So I was sort of working on the basis of a starter size being a quarter, and I'd scale in from there. So I decided to change that to 1/8, just to give myself a bit more of a chance on the front side and not get caught out. So ORPN popped up in the morning, moved from 140 up to 175. Because I was thinking about this 1/8 size, I didn't have a problem taking this entry here, thinking I'd scale in. Now, shortly after I did, I thought, that's not a good entry. So just because you're taking smaller size doesn't mean you can sort of slip up and take a poor entry. So as a result, it popped up and I decided to just stop out for a small loss. Now, the chart did end up doing what I thought it might do, which was have a big pullback, and it would have actually been quite a nice trade. So had I not have chased, I would have been shorting in on this bounce, risking either here or the pre-market high of 184, trying to get all my shares up around this area, and then the trade would have worked. So just need to be careful of that, not taking correct entries, even though I'm taking a smaller size. So focus on entries is a lesson, a takeaway from this one. The next trade I'll go over, save the best for last today. So the next trade I'll go over is INPX, just an end of day squeeze. Looking to get short into the rip, covering the pullback. So got small starter here, added some in, took half off here, and then the rest here. So ended up flat on the trade. These end of day squeezes that come right just before the close, I'm not seeing much opportunity in these. They don't provide much pullback, so I think I'm going to start to let these ones go and just play these parabolic type spikes in the morning. But nevertheless, some good practice in covering in the pullback. And the last trade I'm going to go over was a pretty active one. Now, a lot of lessons coming out of this one today for ANY. Well, now, where to begin on this one? So, daily chart, clear resistance at 4.27 and then 5.75. So stock opens up in the morning, takes this big rip from 2.55 up to 3.55. Nice solid $1 move, and I got a really nice entry. Got a nice pullback. I think I covered it partial first and then added back in on the bounce. Popped up, came down, and you're trying to be patient with the winners. So what I then did was add more onto that bounce, risking high of day, and stopped out. Now, this is something I'm not very good at doing, but I instantly got short again. I should really leave this for a while, let it sort of set up, decide what way it's going to do. But nevertheless, got short again. Now, I felt like at this point, this was a good stuff move, just, spiking over high of day and instantly coming back under. So I added to my position and got a nice pullback, covering partial, trying to let the rest run. Now, I had to leave the screens at this point, and had I been there, I probably would have took another quarter on this wash here, which would have helped with the next stage of the trade. But nevertheless, at this point, I think I had my risk set for just above high of day. So, you know, quarter off here. Popped above VWAP, got to add on just here, thinking, you know, pop above VWAP, come back under and then fade off for the rest of the day. But it keeps on grinding up. Now, this is where the trade went wrong. At this point, I shouldn't be adding here. You know, when it pops above this previous high, the trend is now broken. It's no longer the backside of the move, and I should be stopping out here in these mid threes. Instead, what I decided to do was get stubborn, start adding to this loser, thinking that I can beat the trade by shorting into the rips, covering into the dips. But when it starts going with too much strength, you just can't do it, because you end up having to take too much size to improve the average to pull back. So when you're wrong, your losses really do start to add up. So I managed to get you know, I did kind of get it working, shorting bigger size up here, covering some of the pullbacks. You're sort of recycling those shares up with another add-on, covering into the wash. But once again, instead of calling it a day, you know, here where I could have been green on the trade, start shorting again on the bounce and going into the red. So having to cover up here, cover some more, re-shorting, covering up here. And, you know, basically working the trade back to front, buying the dips, you know, and selling up on the rips, you know, buying low, selling high rather than the other way around. Felt like it was worth one last shot after this stuff candle. I did actually switch to a long at some point in here. I think after this bull flag, thinking, right, this is going to really go, but it didn't, and it made me switch back to a long and take one last entry, you know, for this backside move here, which was actually a really nice trade. I worked into a really nice size, thinking, right, this is the backside, let's size in and get patient, and covered all of that lot into this VWAP wash. I see a lot of times it has this pullback to VWAP and then it bounces off and rides back up to test high day. So I didn't want to sort of push my luck there. I let it go there, and then unfortunately at 3 o'clock I did decide to go on this trade again on this rip, sort of for a high of day rejection, but it just popped through, tried to stop out in this move so fast I couldn't get the exit, and then it halted. So on the whole, on the open, just to, you know, luckily I didn't take too much size here, so it wasn't a crazy loss at this point, but decided to stop out on half my position here in case it ripped higher, but let it pull back to cover another a quarter there. So I think 1 quarter left now. Short a bit more on that pop, trying to get out on the washes. But when it couldn't go lower here, and we put in this next bull flag, you know, stopped out the rest. So that is a good stop right there. Not waiting for here and adding more, accepting that this isn't working and stopping out. After this stop out, went in short again and covered into the, you know, trying to practice that frontside move, short, cover, stop, rest, break even. And then moving into the end of the day, we have another attempt at a short on this huge rip from, you know, 4.5 up to 6.75, shorting into it here and covering into the dip. So a busy stock, lots of mistakes, some good trading, but overall not happy at all with how this one went. Got to learn, you know, when to stop out, which would be probably, you know, here. And then at this point it's 10 past 11, the short hasn't worked, just ignore it, you know, ignore it till 2 p.m. When it breaks here, again, that's a stop out, and ignore it, maybe another short here, but got to get better at stopping out, got to get better at, you know, accepting when I'm wrong, and focus on that backside. Okay, thanks very much.